Hello there, everybody. Welcome back. Another edition live at Drew's house. Hope everybody's doing okay out there. One more show here to end the week. Hope you've all been enjoying them so far. We did a marathon show the other day that was very fun with Lauren Lamb. And today we're going to be talking a little bit of music. The good people over at Club Passim. Everybody knows that it's kind of an epic spot for live music for decades here. And like everybody else, they've had to go virtual. And one of the things that has gone virtual is their open mic night, which is a little bit legendary. And to talk about that, well, let's go to somebody, a little member of Club Passim here, Matt Smith. We're going to bring Matt in right now. All right, welcome back. So, Managing Director at Club Passim, Matt Smith joins us. Matt, how are you, sir?
Doing all right. How about you?
Doing fantastic. So, obviously, well, let's start off. This is your first time on the show, so we thank you for doing it. And let's just start on a personal level. How has quarantining and this whole pandemic been for you?
It's tiring. It's the same for everyone. We're finding some brightness in it here and there, finding some interesting things, interesting solutions to what we normally do. But overall, we're ready for it to be done.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about the open mic night in a second, but I do want to talk about, you guys did some great charity work for so many of these artists, and I guess charity work is the wrong phrasing, but fundraising for so many of these artists, some that are near and dear to your hearts. Tell us a little bit about that here, right from the beginning of this pandemic.
Yeah, right after we closed down, we started this fund called the PAIR Fund, the Passim Emergency Artist Relief Fund. And through that fund, we have raised over $125,000 that we've given out to artists through the course of the pandemic. Knowing that everyone was going to be out of work and gigs were just not available anymore. And so we knew we had to help out the community at large.
Yeah, it's such a good thing. I know you guys, artists are such a big part of your place. This open mic night, it's kind of historic. And of course, you guys are not going to let this thing die in a pandemic. You've gone virtual, a little bit. Tell me where you're at here on the Club Passim open mic night. Open mic night. Why can't I say that?
Open mic night. Well, the funny thing is we hadn't actually had one in the club for a while. We had shut down the open mic for a time, but then when we went virtual with our shows, we figured this is a good time to bring this back because we can do a little more outreach, a little different kind of outreach. The fun thing about it is you're not beholden to geography anymore. People can be tuned in from anywhere. And so we've had people all over the United States and as far away as Brisbane, Australia, playing at the open mic. And it's been fun to see who we can get coming in. We limited that you can only play it once a month because we knew the demand was going to be fairly high. And so, we've had some repeat performers. We found some great new acts that we didn't know about that we've had perform at our Campfire Festival and our Discovery Series already. So it's doing the job of the open mic. It's finding new people for us to bring in and to program.
And just to be clear, these aren't really like the poor man musicians like me who play around the campfire up in Maine. These are like legit, real, solid musicians who they could be stars someday.
Well, it's all over the map. It is an open mic, so there are going to be some folks that are maybe they're gigging in their own region, or they got a following in their own region and they're trying to find other places where they can play. But there's some that are purely hobbyists and that just have a fun time getting out and playing a little bit of music in front of folks.
Very cool. Talk about the history of this, because I know that you guys have had some people come on the open mic back in the day, and there are some big names now.
Yeah, I mean, folks like Mary Gaucher got her start at the open mic, Laurie McKenna, even artists more modern like Adrian Lenker from Big Thief and Margaret Glaspie and Lake Street Dive. These are folks that came through when they were just starting out. Anais Mitchell, who has had such a huge success with Hadestown on Broadway now, she got her start playing at open mics.
It's so amazing.
Yeah. And back when the club first reopened as a nonprofit organization back in '95, we started an open mic fairly quickly, and it really became an incredibly popular event where we would have essentially sold out open mic nights, and we'd have to turn people away, or say they could come in when somebody else left, and for a small venue, we'd end up having sometimes 60 people sign up to perform.
Wow, that's unbelievable, and it's such a cool thing. That really does happen. It makes you feel like a part of the community when you have that sort of. It's like kind of like one big party, and everybody's rooting for each other. It's a great feeling, isn't it?
It is. I mean, there is a lot of. It's not a competition, and we never wanted it to be a competition. And there are some folks that do more of a competition style open mic, and I think that those can be fun as well. But we never wanted to kind of pit people against each other. We wanted everyone to be in it together.
That's great. What is this? Obviously, the clubs and the artists, they're the ones being really hit some of the hardest through this whole thing. The clubs have had to shut down. The musicians don't have places to play. What has this been like as from your perspective watching this all play out?
It's devastating. Even though we're still operating, it is a scary time because we have no idea when we're going to be able to have people in the room again. We've been doing some streaming shows with no audience from the club, but most of our streaming shows are remote wherever people are. And, we started doing streaming shows day one after we shut down. Our last show in the club was March 11th. Our first show streaming, solely streaming, was on March 12th. It was, the next day. And streaming was something that we were already familiar with. We had done many things streaming from the club before. And so that wasn't new to us, but going completely virtual was certainly new to us. And how to run not just a nightly show, but also these more collaborative shows or more a little more intensive shows, like the open mic night, like our festivals that we run, our Bluegrass Festival and our Campfire Festival, our Celtic Festival. Taking those online has been a bit more of a project, but we've had to shift how we're doing it over the first few months. There have been technological advances. There have been just different ways and different platforms to use, and I think that we're at a pretty good place right now. But it's ever changing.
I guess the one advantage to doing it virtually, like you said, is it's kind of opened up. There's no boundaries anymore. So you're bringing in people from all over the world, and that must be pretty cool in its own right. Are you feeling that same kind of in the club kind of support, albeit virtually?
Absolutely. This was the first, back when we had our Campfire Festival over Memorial Day, that was a schedule that we already had booked. It was something that we had already made a schedule for, and, figuring, of course, back in March, we were thinking, of course, we're going to be back in the club by May. Why wouldn't we be? And then after that festival ran, we started to think about the Labor Day version of the festival and how we can kind of utilize the platform to really reach out to folks from all over the place. And so we had performers from Australia, Barcelona, all over Canada, Singapore, just people from all over the place, just thinking that without having to travel, they can be part of this festival and make it, throw the doors wide open, essentially.
Again, we're joined here by Matt Smith, Managing Director over at Club Passim. I wonder, Matt, you look around and it's, I know you always hope people come to your place and, it's kind of a friendly competition, but it must be devastating for a guy who's clearly a music guy like you, who's been in it for so long, to see all these live music venues kind of close up shop, because there's been so many of them, not only locally, but around the globe, really. What has it been like watching so many places struggle through this and some not make it?
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. You always hope that the community is going to help support these places. And, we've seen that in some cases, and in other cases, it's been, kind of a deeper decision for folks, more long-term, thinking about what this is going to look like and how people are going to be able to adapt. And working in music, working in a venue is hard work, and they're long hours. And I think some people, after having a break from it for a while, don't want to go back, but I certainly do. And we've had an amazing outpouring of generosity from our community, and it's been really, really inspiring to see that people want us to stay around, and that not only we didn't just close doors down and say we're just going to have to wait until we're back in the room to do anything. We're trying to still present music 7 nights a week like we did. Our music school is going great, and we're just trying to keep ourselves working and keep musicians working.
I've heard so many people say through this whole thing that one thing they've realized having to hunker down at home is that, man, do they miss live music? Oh, I just wish I could go to a concert. I don't think people quite realized how much of a fabric on their lives some of this stuff was. And it really is true in these kind of dark times that people turned to the arts and turned to a lot of these musicians to get them through. If nothing else, I think maybe people realize that a little bit through the quarantine.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be interesting to see just long-term what the effects are. I mean, because I know that even when we have a green light to be able to get back in the room and start having shows again, there are going to be people that just don't feel safe and are never going to feel safe doing that again. And that's hard. It's hard to think about that. And it's hard to realize that some people are just not going to want to do that anymore. So we're trying to create a hybrid model moving forward where we are able to do high quality live streams of our shows from the club, even when we are back in there and have people in the room again, just to make sure that we're still engaging with everyone that can be engaged.
And you're in a location, obviously high traffic. It's city life, and a lot of these places, like some theaters. I've done a couple drive-in shows where theaters have kind of held concerts, and those actually work. Those feel like a concert to me. It's almost like the tailgate, and then you never have to leave the tailgate. It feels like a real concert. But so many of these clubs, and I picture yours being like this. There's not necessarily really an avenue. You're not going to take out these big chunks of cities and say, let's have a drive-in concert every night. Is there any ways that you guys are throwing around to get live music back? Are we closer to that in any way?
Right now, I suppose every day that goes by, we are, by the nature of things, closer to that again, but we're also one day closer to death. It's not to put a dark spin on that, but
it's not too dark at all.
There is obviously progress just by time marching on, and I like the idea of the outdoor shows as long as well spaced out. With some of the streaming shows we've had at the club, the artist has brought a couple of guests, and we sit them at the back of the room as far away as humanly possible from everything. We have a lot of gloves and masks and wipes and sanitizer at the club. So whenever we're in there doing a live stream, we're wiping everything down and making sure that we're being as safe as humanly possible. And hopefully that will translate into us being able to have folks in the room again once restrictions change, or once there's a vaccine. I mean, I know that some folks aren't going to want to go out until there's a vaccine, and that is of sound mind. I absolutely accept that moving forward. And it's been tough in Cambridge. They haven't been allowing permits to do outdoor events and things like that. So we'd love to partner with some folks on doing some outdoor things, but also you got to make sure that the economics of it makes sense, because you don't want to all of a sudden have a very high ticket price to something that feels very exclusive just so that you can have it, pay for the facility and whatever else you need to do. You don't want music like that to just be something for just the wealthy.
Understood. All right, Matt Smith, we're going to move into open fire around here, which is got to answer the first things that comes to mind. But I do want to ask, what's the background of you personally? How'd you get into this? Obviously, you're a music guy. Where did it all start?
100% as a fan. I was an avid concert goer from when I was a teenager, going to all the big outdoor shed shows and, every big concert that was going on. But as time went on, my love for music started to get localized, and I started to, get to see bands, not just sort of the big classic rock bands that were already enormous, but new bands that were just starting out, and start to really love that end of the musical spectrum, being able to kind of be there at the ground level when things were starting out. So the venues I was going to just kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I was coming to Passim as a regular patron for a while before it had shut down. And then when it reopened as a nonprofit, I started volunteering right away and got super involved. And that's,
That is such a great moment. I remember, and before we really launch it more rapid fire, going to see Springsteen at a big stadium. I love it, but there's something different and almost just as enjoyable sometimes seeing that local artist that you didn't expect to be just fantastic in front of 25 people, maybe putting his or her heart out there, and just there's something intimate and just great about that kind of show, isn't there?
Absolutely. And for me, I'd always rather go to that really good local hamburger place than go to Burger King or McDonald's. I'd rather find the cool thing on my own than be told what it is.
Absolutely. All right, rapid fire. Look at that record collection. Have you listened to every one of those?
No.
Is that right? No, I thought that answer might have been yes.
No. I amass and then hope I will find time for everything.
What is the favorite album of all time?
I am no good with favorites because it changes all the time.
Okay.
I'll listen to different kinds of music at different types of, time of the year. And so I can never pick a single favorite.
Okay. What was the first concert you ever attended?
Ooh, boy. The first concert I ever attended might have been something back in the 70s, something like Sha Na Na or something like that. I think that might have been.
I don't think we've had that answer yet on the show. That's a good one. That's original. What would be the show that you remember maybe not having the best or not having huge expectations for, but what's the show that just stunned you, caught you off guard, said, wow, that was a concert?
For me, that always goes back to when Anais Mitchell first did her Hadestown piece at Passim, when the record had just come out, and we gathered a local cast of singers to play the parts in it. And it was one of those things where, you hope for the best, you don't know what it's going to be like. And it was just transcendent. One of my favorite shows of all time.
Very cool. One of you guys, I think you guys, and as I rapid fire, I tend to derail a little bit, so bear with me. But one of my favorite artists, friend of mine, a friend of the show here, came on and played for us for a while one day. Ryan Montbleu, I think you guys had on for open mic, right? Peabody Boy.
Yeah, we've known Ryan since the very first days of him getting out to the open mics.
Is that fun seeing some of those artists? I think, did you have Josh Ritter too, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, Josh used to be a regular at the open mic as well.
Some of these names are just, and it must be fun because, these guys are, they're big names now and pretty much play all over the country and even further in some cases. But it must be kind of fun watching some of these guys and girls just kind of go off and just make it. Is that rewarding in some way?
It's one of my favorite things about the job. Just having a hand in helping them get from that first gig to going on to much bigger things. That is one of the most rewarding things that I can think of.
Really, yeah, so cool.
I love it.
Absolutely. What is the favorite? It can be gone now or whatever. But what is the favorite venue to ever see a show for you personally? Besides your.
Oh, you got to say besides?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. For me, it is all about the local scene. I love going to Lizard Lounge. I love going to Toad. Love going to Atwood's. All these places that are the tiny little places around town. When it gets to bigger places, I really enjoy going to the Sinclair. And when it gets to the bigger places, it becomes the venue becomes meaningless. When you're going to see something at the Enormo Dome, just the place itself becomes really meaningless. And I actually have a hard time focusing on the bigger places. You know, when I'm at a big show, my sphere of focus tends to be one Passim of distance. You know, like the distance from the sound booth to the stage at Passim is about as far as my focus can go.
There you go. You have no trouble getting in there, I'd imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I'll give you the chance. Club Passim, what makes it so special of a venue? Because I know people are going to get nostalgic a little bit, thinking about, man, I miss going to Club Passim. What makes it such a special venue to go see an artist?
To me, it's you know, it's that sense of connection to the 60 plus year history of it, and knowing that you're always gonna find something new. There's all your favorite things that you've seen before, but there's always something exciting coming up too that you don't know about yet, and that you're going to look back at in 5-10 years and say, wow, did I get to see that in a tiny little room? Yeah. And that, you know, that will never stop.
Yeah. And you know, it seems like the you know, you and I think we're both big music fans, and we love our artists and local artists. I do know a little bit from experience, and also the son of a musician, a guy who had a band for his whole life, that musicians aren't always the easiest people in the world to work with. Most of the time they're great, but it's not all fun and games. Were there ever any moments where you were ready to throw the hands up in the air and say, I can't do it anymore?
Not about the music world as a whole, but maybe with certain artists. They say, like, I don't want to work with you anymore, but I still love the job.
And now name them. No, I'm just kidding. I do know that could be an interesting side of it. But hey, like in every other industry, there can be egos out there, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But so as we hopefully get out of this, let's say let's say we have a vaccine in 6 months and everything, the whole world goes back to normal, even though we know it will never be. It'll be a new normal in some way, even still. But what is the first thing that you're going to do when the green light is given to play live music and people are willing to get back out there? Is it, well, let's start playing live again? When's the first show?
Yeah. I mean, for me, if it does feel safe, then I'm ready to flip that switch and go back to it. You know, it's going to be tricky with the way restrictions are going on. You know, are we going to be able to have our kitchen back open again? Are we going to be able to have wait staff? Are we, you know, what are we going to be able to do? But if we were, you know, if all of a sudden, like magic, everything was fine, I'd be ready to flip that switch. I mean, I've got people already trying to book things for next fall. And I'm not ready to pin down dates that far out right now. You know, and even in the spring, we've had shows that were canceled during quarantine that we rescheduled for around now that we've had to recancel. You know, so it's hard to, the first thing will be building a calendar again.
Yeah, I can imagine. So let's wait.
But I think part of it is also just going to be reaching out to the local scene and the local musicians and saying, "Hey, let's start playing. Let's get some bodies in the room."
I will say it's funny to me. A big part of our show is a lot of these local artists, and so many of them come on here. It is not surprising, but it's just it's very cool for me to see how many of the artists have really tightened the shoelaces and just said, we're going to be there. We're not going to sulk. We're going to find new ways. We're going to play virtually. We're going to do whatever we have to do to try to bring joy and try to bring music to people, even if they have to watch it from their couch. And It's not quite the same live experience. I really feel like when we look back on this, I think the musicians are really going to be kind of given a big thumbs up when it's all said and done for how they handled it as a whole.
Absolutely. You know, and that's been the thing all along is how to be, you know, kind of nimble and adaptable as we go on, because like I said, our first live stream in the quarantine was day one, and it was just a matter of that afternoon being in touch with the artist and saying, like, okay, it doesn't seem safe to come here and play a show, so what can we do? You know, what is our best option right now?
And you guys have such a great following too. I mean, I know it hasn't been easy on you, but being a big established, you've been a part of the community for so long, that has to be an advantage compared to the new place that opened up a year ago, right? And just trying to make it.
Absolutely. There's a long history and a lot of connection to a lot of bigger names and smaller local names. But also I think that it's that we're not just in the business of selling tickets and beer. We are, part of our mission is to grow new talent in the room and to help out these artists. And so, that we were fundraising for artists from day one, carried a lot of weight with our community. They said, like, you folks took charge of a bad situation and did a good thing. And so we have a great team, and just the ability to do that, and knowing that our community was going to step up and be part of a solution really has helped us tremendously.
I've seen a lot of artists, and I don't know if they're even the ones that have received some assistance from you guys, but I've seen a lot of artists give shout outs to you, to Club Passim, and just at least draw attention to what a great job. This was something that they were ready for. Not that anybody's really ready for a pandemic, but they've been giving you guys shout outs, which shows a lot of how much the artists respect your place. Have you been getting a lot of that even behind closed doors? Just thanks for all you do.
We have, and it is heartening to see, when we do send checks to artists through the Emergency Artist Relief Fund, how grateful people are, and it's just the fact that we have raised money for them. It's not for us; that's for them, and it really speaks to how much we care about our artists. Absolutely.
What's the one thing that you would tell people that they don't realize what the artists are going through right now? Because you really think about it, right? It's not only just the guitar players. A lot of these people are in bands. The bandmates aren't playing. A lot of these bands have roadies. The roadies aren't playing.
Right.
I think about your place. You mentioned the cooks and all that. How are all these people doing? How's everybody getting by?
A million different ways, whether that be finding other kinds of work to be able to do during this. I mean, we had to furlough a good amount of staff because we don't have shows happening. And for the first couple of months, we kept everyone on staff and paid them all as if shows were going on, until some of the federal funding started to come in so that people could take that. So we wanted to make sure that we were doing everything we could to take care of our whole organization. And then, as far as one takeaway for the kind of things that we're doing now, and, thinking about the audience, that, the audience might not be able to afford going to concerts right now because they're suffering through this as well. But there are people who have been generous and have helped out. But at the end of the day, now we're doing all the work and more for a fraction of the return, the financial return that we would normally see. And so, everyone should be thinking about what matters to them and how they can help, whether that be spreading the word, whether it's financial or not, whether or just spreading the word about things and telling other people to check out what's going on for any venue that's out there struggling and unable to present right now.
All right, last question here with Matt Smith. What would you tell the person? I think most live music fans have been to Club Passim. It's been a Cambridge staple. It's such an epic place for live music, and most people probably know it. What would you tell the person who has never been, has somehow been living in a cave on the other side of this thing? Why do you want to come out and see live music at Club Passim? What have you been doing right all these years?
Because you're always going to be surprised by the next thing. Look, there's a lot of people that, think of us as a folk club, and to an extent, there's a reality to that, but also it's more in a matter of presentation. It's a listening space where people come and they really pay attention to what's going on stage. What I always say to people, like, go into it without expectations and be ready to be surprised, because a lot of people thinking like, oh, I don't like folk music, or I don't like Americana, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. don't come at it with that attitude. Just come at it open and be ready to be surprised by something that you didn't think you would like.
Good stuff. Matt Smith, Club Passim. Thanks for all you're doing for the artist. Thanks for all you've done for the local music scene over a long period of time. And thanks for coming on the show, man. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care.
All right. Hey, I'll let you get back to the records now. I know you got a lot of
I got a lot of listening to do.
Matt Smith. Thank you, sir.
You bet. Take care. All
right. There you have it. Matt Smith, Managing Director over at Club Passim in Cambridge. What an unbelievable spot. Everybody knows how great of a spot that has been. And they have done a real lot for the local artists through their emergency relief fund. And I hear a lot of that from a lot of the artists that we talk to, that what a great job they've done. It's really a cool thing that they should be commended for through this pandemic. And Matt Smith, I can tell he's a music guy like me. We have a lot of the same thoughts on smaller shows and all that, and just going to see and support your local artists. I love his stories on that. And this open mic night thing, hey, I said it right correctly for once. This open mic night thing that they have going on is just a cool thing, and they're doing it virtually. If you have a chance to jump on the website for Club Passim, go do it and check it out, because it's a cool take. And you might see the next star there someday. I'm telling you, they have some unbelievable acts that show up and jump on the open mic night. So go check it out. Big thanks to Matt Smith. That's how we're going to end the week here. I love end of the week on a good old-fashioned music show. I used to do that back in Newburyport when we used to be in the studio. I used to have to try to have artists in, and we'd always end with the music show. We'd play live. Now I'm just a guy here in my kitchen talking to you from my kitchen. Anyway, have a good weekend, everybody. Thanks again, Matt Smith, Club Passim. My name's Drew Moholland. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.